Thank you all very much. You know, I've always said when it comes to attitude, it's not what happens to us, but how we deal with what happens to us that makes the difference. You know, by far, the most important asset any of us have is our attitudes about the things that happen to us in our life and the job we have. Everything we do relates to attitude about relationship or tasks or events or situations. You know this. Positive attitude says to me, not only can I get more done, but it's easier to get it done when I have a great attitude about it. I think the reverse is true, though, too. I mean, when my attitude's bad, I notice there's a lot more energy it takes to get things done, and usually other things get in the way that bother me in the process. Attitude is the reality of how we see everything that happens to us. So on page number 1, in the workbook in front of you, let's talk about some points that relate to attitude. Number 1, working with positive people makes the job easier. True or false? True. Working with positive people makes the job easier. Number 2, positive attitude equates to a positive personality. So in other words, typically, not based on what happened to you in your life or what's happening to you, but how you see it has a lot to do with the persona that you give to other people. If I feel positive about things, I tend to relate to other people in a better way. Number 3, one bad apple in the barrel, given enough time, can spoil the barrel. Now, I'm serious. I don't want to be too down about this because this is an attitude session, but how many times have I worked around somebody that, given enough time, affects my attitude? You know, for example, I remember one of the first jobs I had, you know, I thought I had a great idea, and I went to my boss and I said, I got a great idea, and unfortunately the first thing out of his mouth was, well, we've tried about everything around here. What's your idea? I shared the idea. He said, well, that's not going to work. We did that before. I went out of there telling other people what? Well, they've tried that here, and it didn't work before. Because I always believe one person's attitude will tend to affect 5 or 6 other people's attitude given enough time. Number 4, you get what you expect. A number of years ago, I came across a philosophy that I tell a lot of people about. It's called high expectancy theory. It says, if you expect at a high level things to happen, things will happen. If you expect at a low level things to happen, things will happen. You know, we had a negative person working around us a number of years ago who was a vendor, actually, coming into the company, and it seems like nothing was going right. Well, they worked in what I call the crisis cycle of their job. You know what I mean? Wait till it absolutely has to get done and then leap on top of it, rather than the proactive cycle of their job. I think the challenge for all of us is to look at the things we want to have happen and then benchmark what level we want them to happen at, rather than the reverse. Number 5 is attitude equates to energy. How I see things directly relates to the energy level I have. And I typically meet people with high levels of energy, and I typically find the energy comes not necessarily, and I want to be careful about saying this, because they exercise every day of the week. It's because they have a great attitude about things that happen to them, so they use less energy in the process of getting things done because their expectancy level is higher. And finally, number 6 is we become like the people we're around. Now, that's a scary concept. You want to think about this. If you associate with negative people, you tend to become negative. And I have found in analyzing different workplace environments, because of the nature of the workplace over a number of years, the people working in that environment, because they're working around other people with a low expectancy, tend to have a low expectancy for the workforce. And rather than having a proactive, let's go to work and make this work today, they go to work saying, let's get through the day process. On page number 2 of the study guide you have in front of you, there's an interesting cycle that relates to all of this. And about 15 years ago, I did a study of this cycle. It was very interesting to me to find out that what happens to you will happen to you again. Isn't that interesting? Unless you do something about it. It's called the attitude cycle. It basically says things start with actions. And actions, as you can see there, follow to experiences. As a result of actions that I do, I have experiences. As a result of the experiences, I have reactions, which means I am conditioned based upon what happens to me and my experiences to the tendency of reacting again. Let me give you an example. If you grow up in an environment where people tell you more about what you can't do than when you can do, then every time somebody criticizes you for doing something, what's your reaction? Well, it's defensive. You take a defensive posture. And it's almost automatic. It's almost like somebody looks at you wrong, you know what I mean? And you move into that reaction mode. Reactions go to reinforcements. Once we get that reaction going, in terms of a repetitive response, Then we look for reinforcements. Have we ever driven somewhere and say, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late? Why? Because I was late the last time. I mean, we associate with people, married to people who are often what? Late. Right. So what do? We say, hey, we're going to be what? Late. And we are what? Late. Thank you. And maybe we even try to get them there early, but it doesn't work because no matter how early you start them, they're still... How do you know this? That's all part of this cycle. So we look for reinforcements to reinforce the fact that this is true fact, and reinforcements create attitudes. Actions do not create attitudes. The more we reinforce a negative phase in the cycle, the more we reinforce the attitude. And attitudes then reinforce the actions. So we go back around again. I'll give you an example. I was 18 years old. I was working in grocery stores in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I was conditioned by the people who worked there. I was new on the job, okay? Excited about the grocery industry, right? I thought it was a fun place to work. And about the first Thursday, there was a subversive training program that went on in the back of the store. All the other store employees got me together and decided they're going to tell me about what customers are good and what customers are bad. Because people who work in grocery stores know this. No, it amazed me. This store had 5,000 customers coming through the front door a week. And the people who worked there knew exactly who the miserable customers were. And they got me together and they told me about this person. She comes in every Thursday afternoon at 3:30. And she's a miserable customer. Now, who just set my reaction tone? They did. Now, the sad part of all this was nobody taught me how to break the chain. And that's the key, and I want you to write that down. It's called break the chain. Break the chain. Break the chain. Now, how do you break the chain? Well, you can't break the chain by attitude. You have to break the chain by actions. That's the difference. That's the problem with most people facing this kind of situation. They try to think positive about it rather than do something about it. Now, you know exactly what I should have done, right? The minute I saw that woman in the aisle next Thursday, I should have walked up to her and said, my name is Tom Winiger. I work here in this aisle. I specialize in stocking the cans that you're looking for. And is there anything I can help you find in the store today? Now, even if I didn't feel that way, you know, I should have done that. Because action over time creates what? Experiences that are more positive that do what? That create reactions in the other people that reinforce the positive cycle. So on page number 2, let me give you some simple rules. I call number 1, apply the flip approach. The flip approach says you've got to look at the picture from the opposite side. You've got to look at the picture from the opposite side. If we could have said there's a reason this woman is in the store at this time looking for an experience and bothering people to put 3 things in her basket and never having a good experience and spending 2 hours, there's a reason for this. So if I can take the flip side of the issue, I'm much better off and try to define that in terms of my reactions. Number 2, look for what I call the hot sellers. In your life, look for the things that you do that work and spend more time doing things that work. You know, I find athletes that are very successful. I say, why are you so successful? They said, I figured out 1 or 2 things I could do well, and I did what? I kept doing them. And as I did those things, the other things got better in the process. That's what I call the hot sellers. Find something you do it well, and do it at those times when you might not be as up as you are otherwise. You know, I typically find in the morning if I've got to make a few phone calls, I'll call clients that are good clients that I've talked to before if my attitude isn't quite there, because I know by associating myself with positive clients, I'll be better for the clients that aren't so positive when I'm making the calls. To me, that's a hot seller. Number 3 is declutter your life. Declutter your life. I typically find when my attitude goes down, I've got too much going on, I'm not getting any rest. You see what I'm saying? It's just decluttered. You know, and we've always said, are you doing the things that have accumulated, or are you doing the things that you need to do? It's the difference between urgent and important. And challenging, most of us live our lives in what we call urgent, not important. I mean, the reason that we didn't get this done, and we're under pressure to do it now, is because we didn't pre-plan effectively to start the process earlier. So that all of a sudden we've got this crisis, and when we have crisis, our attitudes don't go up, our attitudes tend to go down. Number 4. Create positive affirmations in your life. Let me give you an example. You ever had somebody who, no matter when you see him, says something nice about you? You ever run into these people? And you say, man, I wish I could find more people like that. You know, I'm fortunate that I have people around me like this. But I guarantee you, the reason you have people around you like this is you've done what? That's right. You've sought people around you like this. You've sought to build around you a group of people that tend to support your affirmations. And so if that early boss I had with my great idea would have said, you know, Tom, we've tried that before and we haven't been able to make it work, but maybe you have a way, let's sit down and discuss it, what would have happened to my affirmation process? That's the challenge. Number 5 is insulate and associate. It's the name of the game. Insulate and associate. It's the name of the game. Well, I'll give you a simple little thing. People will sit and read the things in the paper they have no control over for hours about how bad things are everywhere, while they have no control over any of those things, typically. And then they try to go into their life and do other things. I mean, people tend to be negative collectors. Have you ever noticed this? I mean, I remember years ago backing out of my driveway on a rainy day, you know, backed out too fast, little mad, stepped on the gas. You familiar with that? We had a curved driveway, rolled off the driveway, into the mud, tire in the mud. You familiar with the program? Get out of my car, did not put it in park. Are you familiar with the program? I'm standing behind the car, looking at the back tire, going around like this. Little voice inside of you says, dummy, it's not in park. I get back in, I step on the gas as hard as I can, I pull out, right? Am I isolating myself? Nope. All the way to work, I'm going to look for everything that goes wrong, right? So if I pull out in front of a semi, whose fault was it? Theirs, right? If I'm down when I walk into the office, whose fault was it? Theirs. No, it was that not putting it in park. Isolate yourself from the negative things. Why read this stuff all the time in your life you have no control over? And finally, number 6 is, and most importantly, define a mission based on your roles. And we all have a lot of different roles. I mean, I play the role as a father. I play the role as a husband. I play the role as a business owner, manager. And in each one of those, I challenge yourself to take and define yourself in 15 words or 20 words. What is your mission in that role? As a father, is your mission to create an environment where children learn to make the decisions they need to make throughout their life so after they leave you, they can make the right decision? I don't know what your mission in that role is. Is your mission as a manager to create people who are stronger than you in terms of the experiences they have so they can take on the tasks that you have and make the job more fun? And I don't know what your mission is. But I typically find people with missions related to their roles in life tend to have what? A more positive attitude. Well, you've been wonderful. I challenge you to take a close, harder look at these things. Take a look at your own attitude. Take a look at the things that are happening in your life from action and reaction standpoint. And then take a good, long, hard look at the missions you've defined for yourself based upon your roles. Thank you very much. Thank you.